For as long as we've existed, we have been on a quest to change the way we feel, to be sharper, to be calmer, braver, or, well, just different. We have searched for the keys, the secret codes to unlock the hidden machinery of our own minds. This, this is the story of that search and the staggering price of the keys we've found. This is the story of the chemical bargain. So it really begs the question, right? Why? Why do we do it? Why do we reach for that morning coffee, that evening drink, that little something to take the edge off? Why aren't we, satisfied with the brain chemistry we were born with? The answer, and we're going to dive deep into this, is both incredibly simple and at the same time just profoundly complex. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to this one simple thing. We're striking a deal with our own brains. We offer it a molecule, a tiny chemical key, and in return, our brain gives us what we want, a feeling. It could be energy, it could be escape, it could be pure joy. But, just like any deal, there's always fine print. There are terms and conditions, and there is always a price to pay. All right, let's start with our first category, the price of the rush. We're talking stimulants. This is the bargain you make when you want more energy, more focus, more confidence. These are the chemicals that basically scream at your brain to go, 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 way past its normal stopping point. So to understand this rush, you have to understand the main player in this whole drama, dopamine. Now, a lot of people think dopamine is the pleasure molecule, but that's not quite right. It's really the molecule of motivation. It's your brain's little internal signal that says, hey, that was good, do that again. Stimulants, well, they don't make new dopamine. What they do is they hijack the entire system, turning what should be a gentle little nudge into an absolute overwhelming flood. And really, almost every one of these bargains follows the same basic pattern. You can see it right here. It's a loop. First, you have the onset, right? That's when the chemical starts to kick in. Then you hit the peak. That's the feeling you were chasing all along. And then there's the come down. And that's the part nobody likes to talk about. It's the inevitable bill for borrowing that feeling from your own brain. Okay, let's start with the one pretty much all of us are familiar with, the world's most popular drug, caffeine. You know that feeling when you take the first sip of coffee in the morning? It feels like pure energy being poured right into your veins. But it's actually a really clever illusion. See, caffeine doesn't give you energy. It works by blocking a chemical called adenosine. That's the thing that makes you feel sleepy. So it's not pressing the gas pedal. It's more like putting a piece of black tape over your dashboard's low fuel light. The problem is still there, you just can't see it anymore. All right, next up is one of the most brilliant and insidious deceptions in the entire chemical world. Nicotine. People who use it will swear up and down that it calms their nerves, that it helps them relax. But the reality? It's a perfect trap. That feeling of anxiety and stress they're feeling, that's not just life, that's the start of withdrawal from the last cigarette. So the next one doesn't actually give you a feeling of calm. All it does is briefly pay off the chemical debt that the last one created. It's a vicious cycle. And then, of course, you've got the heavy hitters, cocaine and methamphetamine. Now, both of these just unleash an absolute tidal wave of dopamine, but they offer you two very different deals. Think of cocaine as a lightning strike, a frantic, incredibly intense, but very short-lived high. Methamphetamine, on the other hand, that's more like a forest fire. It's a long, grinding, powerful surge of energy that can push the brain way, way beyond its breaking point for hours and hours. And the bill for that kind of a rush, it's absolutely devastating. I mean, think about it. When your brain burns through its entire supply of feel-good chemicals in just a few minutes or a few hours, the crash on the other side isn't just feeling tired. It's a nosedive. A plunge into a world where everything is gray, where you have zero motivation, zero joy, and very often it comes with a terrifying side of paranoia. Okay, so let's shift gears now, because not every bargain is about going faster. Sometimes the deal we're looking for is just to slow things down, to quiet the noise. This is the allure of the numb. It's the promise of a temporary escape from, well, everything. And the master of this particular bargain, it's got to be alcohol. It's such a contradiction, isn't it? That first drink, it lowers your inhibitions, it makes you feel chatty, social, more alive. But as you keep going, it's quietly, systematically shutting things down. Your judgment, your coordination, your ability to regulate your own emotions. It gives you this illusion of connection, all while chemically dulling the very parts of your brain that allow you to truly connect with other people. Then we have opioids. And the experience, well, it's often described with this incredibly powerful image. It's not a rush like with stimulants, it's a release. Imagine a profound sense of warmth, of total safety. where every bit of pain, both physical and emotional, just melts away. It's the feeling of absolute, perfect comfort. But, and this is the absolute tragic core of the opioid bargain, that warmth, that comfort it gives you in the beginning, is the exact same warmth it slowly steals from everything else in your life. Your brain actually rewires itself so completely that the drug becomes the only source of that feeling. Your family, your passions, love, music, all of it just grows cold. The drug doesn't just take away the pain anymore. Eventually, it becomes the only way you can feel anything good at all. And what about sedatives, like benzodiazepines? Their danger's a little different. It's subtle. See, they're often prescribed for anxiety, and they work by boosting your brain's natural braking system. So the calm they bring feels incredibly natural. It just feels like your own mind is finally quieting down. But over time, your brain starts to forget how to hit the brakes on its own. It becomes completely convinced that real calm can only come from that pill. Okay, on to our final category. This one isn't about speeding up or slowing down. This is about changing the channel completely. This is about opening the mind's door. We're talking about substances that don't just promise to change how you feel, they promise to change reality itself. Now, to even begin to understand these substances, we have to talk about a different chemical, serotonin. So if dopamine is the go-get-it molecule, you can think of serotonin as the what does it all mean molecule. Yeah, it regulates your mood, but it does so much more. It helps your brain filter and make sense of everything coming in through your senses. It's basically the operating system for your reality. Let's take MDMA, often called the love drug. It offers this bargain of profound, instant empathy. What it's doing is forcing your brain to dump a massive amount of its stored serotonin all at once. The result is this incredible feeling of love and connection to, well, everything and everyone. But it's like opening the floodgates of a dam. In the days after the reservoir is empty, your brain is just depleted, making even a normal level of happiness feel almost impossible to reach. Cannabis is it's a much more unpredictable bargainer. It plays with a whole different system in your body, the endocannabinoid system, which helps regulate things like your mood, appetite, and perception. By tapping into that, it can twist your sense of time, make simple things feel profound. And this is the tricky part. For some people, that's a gentle, dreamy experience. But for others, that very same key unlocks the door to confusion and even intense paranoia. It's a real roll of the dice. But when you get to the classic psychedelics, we're talking LSD or psilocybin from mushrooms, the bargain you're making is on a whole other level. It's much more fundamental. See, people think it's about seeing things that aren't actually there, hallucinations. But that's not really it. It's more like, as this quote so perfectly puts it, it's like reality itself starts breathing. What these drugs do is they just scramble your brain's normal filtering system. The walls come down. The boundary between you and, the rest of the universe, it just dissolves. So you're not seeing something new in your world. It's that your world itself is losing its solid, predictable shape. And that, right there, is the huge risk of this particular bargain. When you mess with the fundamental operating system of your brain, there's just no guarantee that it's going to reboot perfectly. That door you kicked open, sometimes it just doesn't close cleanly. It might leave a crack open, letting in lingering anxiety or unsettling flashbacks long after the trip is over. So, after this whirlwind tour of the brain's chemical pharmacy, what's the final tally? What's the bill at the end of the night? We have looked at deals for energy, deals for numbness, and deals for entirely new realities. So now, let's talk about the one cost, the one universal price that all of them share. So here it is, the final bill. See, your brain is, above all else, a survival machine. It's built to adapt. So when you repeatedly blast it with some powerful chemical, it doesn't just break, it adjusts. It starts turning down the volume on its own natural receptors. It starts producing less of its own feel-good chemicals. It literally rewires itself to survive the flood, to expect that substance to be there. And the result? The old, regular normal starts to feel empty, gray, unbearable. And that really is the ultimate question that this whole thing leaves us with, isn't it? Our brain's ability to adapt, it's our greatest superpower. It's what makes us so resilient. But what happens when that incredible, powerful machine adapts to a lie, to a feeling that only exists because of a chemical transaction? What happens when the bargain doesn't just change how we feel in the moment, but it starts to change who we fundamentally are?